Imagine you have an enemy who hates you, who wants to harm you, who betrays you. What would you do? How would you deal with such an enemy? How would you destroy such an enemy? Would you fight back with violence and aggression? Would you seek revenge and retaliation? Would you curse and abuse them? Would you hate and resent them? Would you fear and avoid them? Would you despair and give up? Or would you follow a different path? A path that is better, nobler, wiser, and more rewarding. A path that is taught by Allah and His Messenger, peace and blessings be upon him. A path that is followed by the righteous and the successful. A path that is pleasing to Allah and beneficial to you. In this video, we will reveal to you 7 Islamic ways to destroy your enemies without fighting them. These are not ordinary ways, but extraordinary ways. These are not easy ways, but challenging ways. These are not worldly ways, but heavenly ways. These are the ways that will make you a better Muslim and a better human being. These are the ways that will make you a winner in this life and the next. These are the ways that will make you destroy your enemies without fighting them, but rather by winning their hearts and minds. Are you ready to learn these amazing ways? Stay tuned and watch this video till the end. You won't regret it. Lesson 1. Seek refuge in Allah from the evil of your enemies. The first and foremost way to destroy your enemies without fighting them is to seek refuge in Allah from their evil. Allah is the protector, the helper, and the supporter of the believers. He is the one who can defend us, assist us, and grant us victory over our enemies. He is the one who can remove the harm and hardship that they cause us. He is the one who can turn their plots and plans against them. Allah says in the Quran, "And if an evil suggestion comes to you from Satan, then seek refuge in Allah. Indeed, He is hearing and knowing." The Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, taught us to seek refuge in Allah from the evil of our enemies by saying, "O Allah, we place you before them, and we take refuge in you from their evil." By seeking refuge in Allah, we acknowledge our weakness and dependence on Him, and we affirm His power and sovereignty over everything. We also protect ourselves from the whispers of Satan, who may incite us to respond to our enemies with evil, or to despair of Allah's help. We trust that Allah will protect us, guide us, and grant us a way out of our difficulties. Lesson 2. Forgive your enemies and pardon their faults. The second way to destroy your enemies without fighting them is to forgive them and pardon their faults. This may seem counterintuitive or impossible, but it is actually one of the most powerful and noble ways of dealing with our enemies. Forgiveness is not a sign of weakness or cowardice, but rather a sign of strength and courage. Forgiveness is not a surrender or a compromise, but rather a victory and a liberation. Allah says in the Quran, "And the retribution for an evil act is an evil one like it. But whoever pardons and makes reconciliation, his reward is due from Allah. Indeed, He does not like wrongdoers." The Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, said, "The strong is not the one who overcomes the people by his strength, but the strong is the one who controls himself while in anger." Sahih al-Bukhari, 6114. By forgiving our enemies, we free ourselves from the burden of hatred, resentment, and anger that consumes our hearts and minds. We also follow the example of the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, who was the most forgiving and merciful of people, even to his worst enemies. Lesson 3. Pray for your enemies and make dua for their guidance. Praying for our enemies is not a betrayal or a humiliation, but rather a favor and honor. It is not a curse or a harm, but rather a blessing and a benefit. Allah says in the Quran, "And not equal are the good deed and the bad. Repel evil by that deed which is better, and thereupon the one whom between you and him is enmity will become as though he was a devoted friend." The Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, said, "The supplication of a Muslim for his brother in his absence is readily accepted, An angel is appointed to his side. Whenever he makes a beneficial dua for his brother, the appointed angel says, Ameen, and may you also be blessed with the same. Sahih Muslim, 2732. Lesson 4. Be kind and generous to your enemies and do good to them. By being kind and generous to our enemies, we show them the best of manners and the highest of morals. Allah says in the Quran, and spend in the way of Allah from what we have provided you before death approaches one of you, and he says, My Lord, if only you would delay me for a brief term, so I would give charity and be among the righteous. The Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, said, Give charity without delay, for it stands in the way of calamity. Al-Tirmidhi 589. Lesson 5. Be patient and steadfast in the face of your enemies and do not fear them. Being patient and steadfast is not a weakness or passivity, but rather a strength and resilience. Allah says in the Quran, And we will surely test you with something of fear and hunger, and a loss of wealth and lives and fruits. But give good tidings to the patient, who, when disaster strikes them, say, Indeed we belong to Allah, and indeed to Him we will return. Those are the ones upon whom are blessings from their Lord and mercy, and it is those who are the rightly guided. Lesson 6. Seek knowledge and wisdom to deal with your enemies, and do not be ignorant. Allah says in the Quran, And say, My Lord, increase me in knowledge. The Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, said, Seeking knowledge is an obligation upon every Muslim. Lesson 7. Invite your enemies to Islam and do not despair of their guidance. Allah says in the Quran, Invite to the way of your Lord with wisdom and good instruction, and argue with them in a way that is best. Indeed, your Lord is most knowing of who has strayed from His way, and He is most knowing of who is rightly guided. The Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, said, Convey from me, even if it is one verse. Sahih al-Bukhari 3461. We have learned some amazing ways to destroy our enemies without fighting them, but there is so much more to learn and practice. Islam is a vast and rich religion, full of wisdom and guidance for every aspect of our lives. Thank you for watching, and may Allah bless you and protect you from your enemies. Assalamu alaikum.